Before this story truly begins, imagine this for a moment: a billionaire's daughter so broken by grief and anger that no teacher, therapist, or elite caretaker could reach her, and a quiet single dad janitor who had nothing to offer but patience, honesty, and a broom. If stories about unexpected heroes, emotional healing, and quiet strength move your heart, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us until the end, because this journey will change the way you see people forever. No one at Hawthorne Crest Academy talked about Lily Cross without lowering their voice. At 15, she had already earned a reputation that adults twice her age struggled to escape. She was brilliant, sharp-tongued, and emotionally unreachable. She had been expelled from 2 private schools, suspended from another, and now stood on her final warning. Teachers called her difficult. Counselors called her incooperative. The media, when they dared mention her, called her the billionaire's problem child. But no one ever said the words Lily herself felt every night when the mansion lights went dark: alone, abandoned, furious. Her father, Richard Cross, was one of the wealthiest men in the country. His name was etched on skyscrapers, hospitals, and scholarship foundations. He could buy solutions to problems most people didn't even know existed. But when it came to his daughter, money failed him at every turn. After Lily's mother died in a car accident 3 years earlier, something inside Lily closed off. She stopped trusting smiles. She stopped believing promises. And most painfully, she stopped believing that anyone would stay. Richard tried everything: private therapists flown in from Europe, elite boarding schools with class sizes smaller than most living rooms, tutors, mentors, even motivational speakers. Nothing worked. Lily pushed them all away with calculated cruelty, testing how quickly they would give up. And they always did. Hawthorne Crest was supposed to be the last stop. A quiet, prestigious academy with strict rules and even stricter discretion. Richard promised himself he would make more time, cancel meetings, come home earlier. But billion-dollar deals don't pause for grief, and promises don't heal wounds on their own. On Lily's first day, she arrived in a black luxury car, headphones on, eyes cold. Students stared. Teachers braced themselves, and somewhere down the hallway, mopping the floor near the lockers, stood a man no one noticed. His name was Daniel Reed. Daniel was 38, broad-shouldered, with tired eyes that carried the weight of long nights and longer responsibilities. He was the school's night janitor, working extra hours to support his 8-year-old son, Noah. Daniel's wife had died of illness years earlier, leaving him with grief he didn't have time to process and a child who depended on him for everything. He cleaned classrooms, hallways, and bathrooms not because he loved the work, but because it was honest, steady, and allowed him to be present for his son. When Lily first crossed paths with Daniel, she didn't even look at him. She brushed past, shoulders slightly bumped, not an apology in sight. Daniel barely reacted. He had learned long ago not to take silence personally. But something changed the following week. Lily had been sent to detention again, this time for making a teacher cry. She sat alone in the hallway after hours, scrolling on her phone, anger simmering. Daniel was nearby, emptying trash cans. At some point, her phone battery died. She slammed it against the bench in frustration. "Phones always die when you need them most," Daniel said casually, not looking up. Lily glared. "Did I ask you?" "Nope," he replied calmly. "Just talking to the universe, I guess." She expected him to walk away or apologize. He did neither. He continued working, unbothered. That unsettled her. Over the next few weeks, small moments repeated themselves. Daniel never lectured, never pried, never treated her like a problem to be solved. Sometimes he offered a quiet comment. Sometimes he simply shared space. Lily, without realizing it, stopped seeing him as invisible. One night, she found him sitting on the steps outside, eating a simple sandwich after his shift. She stood nearby, arms crossed. "You're not scared of me," she said flatly. Daniel looked up, surprised by the directness. "Should I be? Everyone else is," she replied. He considered that. "I'm a dad," he said gently. Fear shows up differently after that. That sentence stayed with her. When Lily exploded during a class presentation weeks later, throwing her notes, shouting that the whole thing was pointless, administration finally snapped. They called Richard and told him they were done. Lily was being expelled. She stormed out, tears burning her eyes, her world collapsing once again. In the hallway, she ran straight into Daniel. "Looks like a rough day," he said softly. She broke. Right there, Surrounded by lockers and fluorescent lights, Lily collapsed into sobs she had been holding in for years. Daniel hesitated only a second before sitting down beside her, not touching, not rushing her, just staying. When her breathing finally slowed, she whispered, "Everyone leaves." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, sometimes they do." She waited for the lie that usually followed. It never came. "I didn't," he added. That was the moment everything changed. Word somehow reached Richard that his daughter had been found crying next to the janitor. Furious and confused, he demanded a meeting. Daniel stood in the office, uniform still on, feeling painfully out of place among polished furniture and sharper suits. "She listens to you," Richard said, disbelief heavy in his voice. "Why?" Daniel didn't pretend to know. "I think she just needed someone who wasn't paid to fix her." Richard swallowed hard. Against every instinct and social expectation, Richard made an unusual request. He asked Daniel to stay involved, not as staff, not as therapy, but as a stable presence. Extra hours, extra pay. Daniel hesitated. He had rules, boundaries, a son to think about. But when Lily looked at him, fear flickering in her eyes, he said yes. The road wasn't easy. Lily tested him constantly. She said cruel things. She shut down. She pushed. And every time, Daniel stayed consistent. He talked about his son. About mistakes. About grief that never really leaves but changes shape. Slowly, Lily began to talk too. She admitted she blamed herself for her mother's death. That she felt invisible to her father's world. That anger felt safer than hope. Months passed. Lily returned to school. Her grades improved. Not perfect, but real. She laughed sometimes. Real laughter. She even volunteered once, surprising everyone. The real test came the night Lily ran away after a fight with her father. Panic exploded across the mansion. Security searched everywhere. Daniel knew exactly where she would be. He found her at the old playground near the school, sitting on a swing, eyes red. "You came," she said quietly. "Of course," he replied. That night, Lily finally let herself be held as she cried, not like a billionaire's daughter, but like a child who had been carrying too much for too long. Years later, Lily stood on a graduation stage, confident, composed, alive. In the crowd, Richard wiped tears from his eyes. Daniel stood beside Noah, who cheered the loudest. In her speech, Lily didn't talk about wealth or privilege. She talked about the janitor who treated her like a human being when no one else could. And in that moment, everyone understood. Sometimes, the person who changes your life doesn't come with answers, power, or money. Sometimes, they come with patience, honesty, and the courage to stay. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that impossible things happen every day, when someone chooses not to walk away.